Hello and welcome to this episode of Soul Growth. I am so excited to get into this one because today, November 20th, 2024, marks the beginning of a new era. After what has been a wild roller coaster 16 to 20 year period with the planet Pluto being in the star sign of Capricorn. I'm not really that into astrology. I don't fully understand it. And what's really interesting is how none of that matters because it has still been influencing my life anyway, and it's the same for you. You may have no clue about astrology, what it is, how it works, and that's okay because, hey, me neither. But pay attention to what I'm sharing with you in this episode and just reflect on your life since 2004, 2008 and see what aligns for you because you might be pretty mind blown like I was. And you might find a new level of peace in your spiritual growth journey. And in seeing that there has been something more than, something beyond you at play that's been influencing the direction and the trajectory of your life. So I knew nothing about Pluto being in Capricorn or what that meant until I read a post on social media earlier in 2024. And it was talking about what it means and what it has looked like with this planet being in this star sign for all these years, and I was blown away. So Pluto was in Capricorn, which by the way is my star sign, from around 2004. That is what I read in the first post. Later research has said 2008. Up until yesterday, which was November 19th, 2024. So that's a 16 to 20 year cycle. And when I read this post, I think it actually brought tears to my eyes. Because if you've listened to the lowdown episode of Soul Growth, or you know me in real life, or you've been in my online world for a while, you'll know that my life since 2011 hasn't been the easiest, to say the least. And for everything that I've shared, there is a whole heap more that I don't share, and there are some nuances to my journey that hadn't felt right to share before now. And when I get to talking to people sometimes and parts of my story come out, they're shocked at all the things that I've navigated through, and more often than not, navigated through by myself. Like, to me, it's my life. It was kind of normal, you know, you've just got to play the game. And sometimes there wasn't much time to stop and really think about what I was going for. I just had to keep it moving. I had to make shit work because the world kept spinning, and good times or bad, I was still responsible for raising another human being and keeping us both alive. And over the past few years, I just started to wonder if actually maybe my life was just supposed to be challenge after challenge and a bit of a struggle. I'd always feel like I was making a bit of progress, but it always felt like it wasn't quite enough and as though there was something missing. And this experience particularly showed up for me when it came to money. And I just started to think that maybe it wasn't so much about how I got through tight financial situations and whether or not it happened in the way that I wanted to, or whether I had to get creative, as much as it was just about getting to the end goal. So that being paying the bill, buying the thing, making it happen, and getting to that end goal. Like, that was the win. And to a big extent, that was very true. And also it was about changing my attachment to how things worked out. You know, identifying my limiting beliefs and looking at what the situation was there to teach me. And because this way of living was the norm for so long, it was a lot of stress. It was uncomfortable. And intellectually, there was a period of time that I just started to think that maybe this is it. Maybe this is how it's supposed to be for me. And at the same time, on a deeper level, on a soul level, I knew that wasn't true and that there was more to it, although I had no idea what that was. And then I read this post and it was talking about how a dense karmic cycle was triggered when Pluto landed in Capricorn 20 years ago, and how that cycle was now coming to an end in 2024. And it shouldn't really have been too much of a surprise for me because this is how my life goes. I experience life and my intuition guides me a lot. And then I receive the understanding after. So I go through the thing, have the experience, and then I receive the understanding. And more often than not, the understanding comes through these seemingly random, coincidental messages and signs. And this was just yet another example of that in reading that post. And I felt so much relief. And like I shared, there was probably a tear, because I saw that there was something bigger than me that had been at play. Like, it kind of meant that there wasn't anything wrong with me, that actually there was like this invisible force almost working against me for all this time and counteracting all of the efforts and all of the things that I was doing. So from what I've read on the interwebs, while this time has mostly impacted Capricorns because Pluto was directly in that star sign, I've also read that this time deeply affected other cardinal signs. By the way, no idea what a cardinal sign is, but I'm telling you what I read. And I read that a cardinal sign, as well as Capricorn, includes Cancer, Libra and Aries too. And even if you're not any of those star signs, you still would have experienced the impact of the past 16 to 20 years, because you're a human being too, and you're here on Earth at this time. So the 16 to 20 year period, I say that because the first post I read said Pluto was in Capricorn, which would make it 20 years. And then when I researched, I kept getting 2008. So that would bring us to 16 years. So that's why I say between 16 and 20 years. And not being an astrology expert myself, I can only go off the information I've read. And I will say that both 2004 and 2008 were both significant catalytic years for me and my life experiences. But take what resonates for you, right? Go and do your own research, check in with your intuition. Through the research that I've done to understand some more of the astrological interpretations of Pluto being in Capricorn, beyond my own personal experiences, it's really, really interesting. So Pluto changes signs once every 20 years. So that would bring us again back to 2004. Pluto was the ruler of the underworld, later known as Hades. And it is sometimes referred to as the Dark Destroyer. And it will come into your life like a wrecking ball and is said to represent transformation in structures, institutions, and established systems. Astrologers associate Pluto with power, transformation, and deep change, while Capricorn is linked to institutions, government, business, and traditional structures. So while the time of Pluto being in Capricorn has been about transformation individually, it's also played out on a collective level too. So when we look at it from that perspective, when Pluto first entered Capricorn, so let's go back to 2008. That was when we saw the very first effects of Pluto being in Capricorn. And if you remember, that was the 2008 financial crash, aka the credit crunch. So that was the physical, tangible effects of Pluto's influence, breaking down outdated structures, and it was in such a big way that it couldn't be ignored. That financial crash was a catalyst for change. And we've experienced things like that in our own individual journeys as well, like not just on that big collective scale, but again, highlighting to you that these changes that happen, they happen to us individually and they happen to us collectively. It's almost like on two different levels, and both levels have ripple effects. Fast forward to 2020, we all know what happened then, all of the chaos that arose from that. And again, we're seeing the effects of Pluto, bringing a lot of our individual and collective shadows to surface in a way that forced change. And you know, that was a challenging time. And this isn't about what you believe or not surrounding COVID. You know, this is about zooming out and seeing the effects of Pluto and its influence on bringing about change in the world that we live in. You know, that time caused a lot of people to wake up. It caused some people to look at things in a different way. And once you know something, you know, you can't, so it triggers you to do life in a different way. A lot of new businesses were birthed in 2020 and the years that followed, and many people saw that they needed to do something different beyond a 9 to 5 because that system is outdated and doesn't support the way we live today, right? It caused a lot of people to pay more attention to their health, end relationships that weren't in alignment for them anymore. Overall, that time set off a series of individual and collective transformations, albeit in a very in-your-face way. You know, again, this is how Pluto works. It's like a wrecking ball. It's going to roll through and it's going to shake up all the shit, and you have no choice but to change, right? And more recently, We're seeing the hierarchy and pedestaling of the entertainment industry come crashing down, with the expo, some of the biggest names in music being outed. I mean, don't even get me started on the fact that I can't even listen to half of my playlists that I used to listen to, because most of the artists that are wrapped up in all of this are on my playlist, so they're all banned for now. But anyway, going back to the point of this episode, this is also a part of Pluto's influence, having been in Capricorn. And whilst Pluto may no longer be in Capricorn, of course we're going to continue to see the ramifications of this time and the fallout of what's been exposed in the past few months, and the industry continue to be exposed, and it's going to continue to tear down everything that's not in integrity until all of the bullshit comes to an end. And that takes as long as it takes, right? So now, with all of this context, let me share with you what else I discovered about the meaning of Pluto's time in Capricorn. So, movement through Capricorn represented a period of profound personal metamorphosis. Common themes included identity changes, so questioning of personal identity, letting go of outdated self-concepts, and potential career life direction shifts. Power dynamics, confronting issues around personal power, authority, and control. Personal growth, facing deep-seated fears, developing emotional resilience, and establishing stronger boundaries. And structural life changes, so reassessing long-held beliefs, potentially dramatic changes in relationships or career. And if you try and hang on to what is old and no longer aligned for you, and this is something we usually do out of fear, right? Because we're scared of change, or because you've been in a relationship, working at the job, living in the house, doing whatever for a certain way and for however many years, but it doesn't light you up anymore, that's when Pluto will force you to move. And you may remember me saying in a previous episode, when you don't move on life, life will move on you. Yep, that's Pluto. Hello 2008, hello 2020. So on a collective level, again, regardless of your star sign, you're going to have experienced the general themes of all of this. And you can probably, as I was just sharing with you, what some of the themes of Pluto being in Capricorn were, you're probably like, yep, that was me. Oh my God, yep, right? I've experienced all of that. And what I find super fascinating about all of this is the alignment of it with the period of Jaden's childhood. So if you're new around here, Jaden is my son. So as well as Pluto moving out of Capricorn on the 19th of November, Jaden turned 18 2 days before on the 17th. And when I track those two things together, it's wild. Like, becoming pregnant and having Jaden was a huge catalyst for change in my life. And even before knowing about all of this Pluto stuff, I've always known that it was when Jaden was around 2, so that would bring us up to 2008, that I started to see things differently. Like, I started to feel like something wasn't right in my life, in my relationship, in my career, but I couldn't fully explain it all because on the outside, I seem to have it all. Like, I ticked all the boxes of the things that we've been told equal success. Had the relationship, the family, business, nice car, beautiful home, designer clothes, all of that good stuff. But something just didn't feel right. And at first, it all felt like gentle nudges and whispers, letting me know that something wasn't right and to make some moves. But out of fear, I didn't. And I ignored it, thinking it will pass. And then it just all came crashing down in 2011. And you probably already know how that went because I shared in the Lowdown episode how 2011 was my rock bottom year. And I'd love to tell you that it was up and up only from there, but it was more like up, down, down, around the bend, down, thrown into a different stratosphere, a little bit up, down. Like, this has been my life for years. And like a swan, I looked elegant on the outside, but underneath those waters, flapping for my life at times, and other times feeling like I was just drowning, right? And again, much of this has been because of Pluto's influence. And in mythology, Pluto wasn't just about endings, because it's easy just to get focused on that, right? But in every ending, there's new beginning. Pluto, as well as being about those endings, is about the wealth and wisdom that can come from going through these intense transformative periods. Capricorn is a sign traditionally associated with endurance, wisdom gained through experience, and building lasting foundations. And what have I always described my personal journey of? Right? Soul growth. That's why this podcast is named Soul Growth. So or 2008, whichever point you want to take it from, to 2024, has been about breaking down everything that doesn't work, or as I described in the last episode, like a series of deaths and rebirths. It's been a process of breaking down what doesn't work and pulling it all apart so that you can rebuild in a healthier, better way. And it's like the phoenix rising from the ashes. Through this time of Plutonian transformation, I feel like I've come home to me and the truth of who I am. And that's really, really beautiful. I've learned to love me and honour all parts of who I am. I've healed, I've grown, I've developed emotional intelligence, I've broken toxic cycles, I've healed my lineage in so many ways. And I know that much of this has been because that's what this incarnation of my soul chose to do. And I also know that it's been intensified by Pluto's influence, pushing, nudging, and even kicking me to do the things when it would have been a lot easier for me not to do them, or I just straight up, I didn't want to do them. And I also know that a lot of it was influenced by having and raising Jaden, and mostly doing that by myself. So when Pluto moves through your star sign, it is considered a period of profound personal transformation. And having been through it, I can concur that that is definitely true. This is what gets to happen when you surrender to Pluto's influence. You can experience the most beautiful metamorphoses, like the caterpillar to a butterfly. And I realised that I was never the caterpillar, always meant to be the butterfly. But just like the caterpillar has to die, when it's inside its cocoon, not many people know this. I only found this out last year. But the caterpillar literally dies and falls apart to be rebirthed, to grow into the butterfly and emerge as that butterfly. And I can relate to that so much. I had to learn to release all that wasn't me. And I had to allow parts of me to die so that new things could grow. And here's the thing. It hasn't been easy. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I've never told anybody that this journey of soul growth, of spiritual growth, of personal growth is easy. It's pushed me, it's stretched me, it's challenged me, and it's broken me. And it's made me stronger. To see the truth of who I am and what I'm capable of. I don't know how many times I didn't know how I was going to make it through a situation. I was scared, I felt unprepared, whatever. And every single time I've made it through, and going through those experiences has helped me to figure out the power of me and to believe in me and to believe in the power of my invisible support team and learn to trust that my spirit team always have my back, even when it doesn't feel like it. And very often you only get to see those things in hindsight, but over time, as you strengthen your spiritual resilience, you get to move through those times quicker, and you surrender to that knowing and that truth that you're always held and everything's always happening for you. And I shared with you in the last episode how 2024 has been the year that I've really surrendered to my spirituality, and how allowing my soul to leave has brought me through so much. And all of this has been years in the making. Who I am today, the woman, the person, the mother, all of the things, is because of everything I've experienced. And I share all of this with you to remind you of the power that you have inside of you, and that there is nothing for you to be afraid of. Of course, your programming and your mind will tell you otherwise, but this is the work. This is the work to do, to heal, to overcome. If you're an Aquarius, which is the star sign Pluto moved into today, there is nothing for you to be afraid of. I repeat, there is nothing for you to be afraid of. The truth is that we're all on a spiritual journey. You wouldn't be listening to this otherwise. And that means that there's always healing to do. And while Pluto may no longer be in Capricorn, that doesn't mean I'm exempt from any more life trials and tribulations. That's part of why my soul incarnated and why your soul incarnated. To heal, to alchemize and unbecome all that is not the truth of who you are. All that you have taken on as a way of surviving, regardless of your star sign, regardless of whether Pluto or any other planet is in your star sign. And as I shared recently in an Instagram post, believing that just because you're spiritual, you'll never have any problems again, that limiting belief is keeping you stuck. Because being spiritual doesn't exempt you from the human experience. You know, life will still life, and it's about how you deal with what's going on that counts, and where your spiritual beliefs and how well you've embodied them really get pressure tested. So, Capricorn and Cancer, Libra and Aries, those cardinal signs, welcome to your winning era. If you've been doing the work on your inner game over the years, healing, releasing your past traumas, reprogramming your mind, moving out of survival, and you've opened yourself up to receiving all of the good things life has to offer, and recalibrating your nervous system to be able to handle and hold on to all of those good things, all of that has been for this time right here. We have moved onto higher timelines, and this applies to all of us. The work that has been done individually by Capricorns, Cancers, Libra, Aries, and everybody individually and collectively over the past however many years, 16 years, 20 years, whatever, has laid the foundations for what's to come. And it's been for all of us, not just for those cardinal signs. Old energy has cleared and new beginnings are here, and I am so excited about this next chapter. I cannot tell you. I personally feel like all that I've grown through and who I've become is for this time right here. And in so many ways, I feel like I'm just getting started. In fact, I feel like I've come full circle, because I'm right back where I started out in 2008, which is also when I launched my very first business. Only this time, I'm no longer raising a child because he'd grown, no longer trying to figure out who the fuck I am, not in an unhealthy relationship with a man or myself. And I feel like I've been reset, and now I get to start over from a healthier place. Knowing who I am, I'm not about to tolerate any toxic bullshit or abandon myself, and it feels so fucking good. Like, I'm so damn proud of me. And I'm excited about building my career from this fresh energy and making more bank than ever before, and starting a new healthy relationship and growing my family. How liberating is it to think that some of the best days of your life haven't even happened yet? Like, watch this space. I cannot wait to continue sharing everything with you that unfolds from this time. So that is it for today's episode. I would love to know what about this episode resonated for you and how this information lines up with your own personal soul growth journey. So send me a DM on Instagram at IamJadeStoner and let me know. I will see you in the next episode. So until then, big love.